Bene.
Perfetto. Allora al Ministro... Gaetano, buonasera, sono Roberto, ci senti? Ministro?
Ok. Allora mi dicono che avevo il microfono chiuso. Roberto, appena ci dicono che siamo in diretta a YouTube. Claudio, siamo in diretta? Credo che potremmo... Siamo in diretta a YouTube? Allora, se Roberto comincia a spiegare come gestiremo l'evento, poi appena il Ministro e il Rettore prendono la parola, continuiamo. Ok.
Okay, so let's start this meeting, which is the final one of our project of Federico, which is dedicated to the professional development of our researcher. And we will have as our main and special guest Professor Joellen Coryell from the University of Texas. We welcome Joellen and thanks a lot. Before introducing your figure as a special guest and as a professional in the field, I will have just a short sketch to present how we will conduct our meetings. I will say just a few words about the meaning of this initiative. Then we will have our Ministry of University and Research, Professor Gaetano Manfredi, and after him, Professor Matteo Lorito, Director of the University of Naples, Federico II. There is some microphone that should be switched off, please. And after their welcome to us all, Professor Barbara Majello will introduce the figure of Joellen, and Joellen will start her presentation for about 40 minutes. You all are invited to intervene on the chat also during the presentation, and we will decide along the presentation if to interrupt for answering some special question, or after the end of the presentation by Joellen, we will have a classical question time. And we will also have Professor Barbara Majello, Professor Maura Striano, and Professor Pietro Nunziante that will act as discussant to the presentation of Joellen. Just a few words from myself. We will have this talk about the internationalization of higher education. I think it is very interesting because to conclude with such a topic, our long path to the professional development of the researcher of the University of Naples. I should say that the internationalization is just a topic which is in a way almost controversial. In a way, there are also some criticism about the process of internationalization because some colleagues thinks that in a way it is a sort of neoliberal triggering dispositive for improving the quality of our services and to compete each other. But we should recognize that the internationalization has always been a mission or a sort of a moral duty for us as scholars, as teachers, and we have been always in touch with other colleagues all around the world, because of course our same work depends on the shoulders of other colleagues also far away from us. So this is a way to understand how it is possible to collaborate while at the same time also promote a sort of let's say healing competition, a sort of competition which try to improve our creativity and the innovation of the higher system, education system as a whole in the world. Of course, there are some problems, but on the other side, there are very opportunities to be followed. And I think that one important issue to think about, and I'm sure that Joellen will mention it, it is the experiences that us all as scholars have when we travel all around the world and we go to meet other colleagues in other countries. And this is especially true for younger researchers. So now I stop this brief presentation of the meaning of our meetings, and I'll ask Professor Gaetano Manfredi if he's online, if he's able to start his welcome to Professor Joellen. As I was telling before, Professor Gaetano Manfredi has an appointment, an urgent appointment with the Prime Minister and his colleagues. So this is the reason why he will speak as our first guest for the welcome. Gaetano, are you ready? Just a minute to check with the Ministry Secretary. Otherwise, if you do agree and Matteo is okay with it, we could also ask Matteo if you would like to start the meeting and welcome you as first actor, our colleague Joellen, waiting for Gaetano.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I will, let's start and then we'll wait for Gaetano. So thank you very much for the invitation, and nice to meet Joellen. You have a beautiful name, by the way, very from our Italian name. So welcome to our meeting, and I'm quite happy also to give my introduction, my welcome, because I'm also, you must know, I'm rector only from about 2 or 3 weeks, so just in the middle of the storm. So you can imagine how complicated is the situation, and Gaetano in Rome is on top of the storm, so you have to govern at the storm, so it's even more complicated. But it's very important. I think I want just like to let you know how important this is Federico project for us. This is a project that's been put forward by Barbara, Majello, Pietro, Nunziante, Maura, Striano, and Roberto Serpieri, all together. And it's a project been running for a while. So, and it's involved many different activities. One of the activities that actually was more appreciated by the people was that this project was very much involved a lot of people in a large university. I don't know if you know, the University of Naples is the largest university in the south of Italy, and 26 departments, about 70 or 80,000 students and so on. So it's a large university with all the possible disciplines represented. And this project was able to connect all this. And it was, for me, at least that I saw the project from outside, was the real important value of all this. And also involved the sorts of, I would say, of ability for us to think about the way we were doing our teaching, which is not easy in a university context, especially also, I would say, in an Italian situation where we used to teach and we also think we teach in the best possible way. And we really know, I would say, sensitive to the idea that someone can teach us how to teach. And so this project was actually a breakthrough from this point of view. Also was able to talk to the young people, these tenured professors that we call RTDB, research type B, that were put together. And it was this big discussion and presentation of how to upgrade their teaching, and also, I would say, how to make it more international, because that's the sense of the discussion tonight. So we are very interested in your presentation, and of course, I see some very important keywords: innovative teaching and internationalization, which is, by the way, is of such a timing. A perfect time for these issues, since all of us have been somehow, launched in a much larger, classrooms, because now we talk through a computer, and there are many more people following our teachings, and many more people interacting with us. So we're learning together. There is a microphone on the background.
Please.
And the last thing. So again, it's very important, and I really thank all the organizers for this. The only thing I would say that this is I don't know again how much you know this university, but this university I'm really honored to lead today. It's supposed to be the oldest secular university in the world, because we're ending up in a few years to our 800 years of life. So, which is an amazing amount from an American point of view. I used to work in the United States and know what it means so ancient in the United States. 200 years is ancient, but here it's a little bit of antique, And so and think that when this university was actually funded by its founder Federico II, at the court of Federico, it was already an international court. But by the time the few universities were founded before, which was University of Bologna, University of Salamanca, and so on, they were discussing mostly about religion, about philosophy or religious philosophy. So there were court and discussions. University were not really open to everyone, and our founder actually wanted a university that was open to everyone, where everyone could actually obtain competences, which is one of the key words also, the Federico, and where there was an international court, an international contest. People from the Arabic world, people from the northern world, people from Italy, from the different kingdoms of Italy, were actually involved in this really, melting pot of culture, discussion, and also as well as also teaching, because teaching is everything. So thank you very much. You are in the right context to deliver your lecture, and we'll be very happy and interesting to follow you. I will try to stay until the end. I have a little bit of few emergency to run for, but no, thank you very much for being here, and thank again to the organizer for making these things happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Matteo, for your welcome, and also for recalling us the importance, the very issue of the development of competencies, both on the academic side and the student side of the higher education policies, and we could also try now to have the welcome from Professor Gaetano Manfredi, the Ministry of University and Research. Gaetano, buonasera, sei con noi, ci senti?
Yes, yes. We can also speak in English if you want. Yes, for me it's the same. Hi, Matteo. Okay, thank you very much. For me, it is a big pleasure to stay here in this connection with you, considering a very interesting topic of the webinar, innovative teaching. I think this is one on the question on the table also after the pandemic, because we are in a critical situation, but obviously a critical situation can be an occasion for an innovation in teaching, and I think also the digital transition can be a possibility for a new dimension of the university in the world. I think that now we have the necessity to have the possibility to have a combination between the teaching in presence and the distance teaching. And and also this is a possibility to have also a new dimension of the university, with the possibility to have an inclusion of people that now are not in the university. And also it is possible also to have a transnational education without barriers, considering also the possibility to include also people that now are in other countries, and also to have the possibility also to enlarge the people in the university, considering also the emerging countries. Also, for example, for the Africa, that now is the new frontier for the university in order to the demand of higher education. But the question is the capacity of the teacher to use this new technology, and therefore also I think it's necessary to have a discussion in our communities in order to have a new also action of the university, considering the opportunity of the new technologies and the opportunities of the digital technology. Therefore, I think that now there are a new time, a cooperation, a time of new frontiers, and I am very happy that in my university there is a discussion on this, also considering the participation of Joellen. Thank you very much to stay here with us, and also the comparison between the experiences from different countries for us is very important. Thank you very much. Nice work in this afternoon.
Thank you, Gaetano. Thank you, Professor Manfredi, and have a good work, a very harsh work in these very harsh times.
Okay. See you.
Un caro saluto.
Ciao a tutti.
Buonasera, grazie.
Ciao.
So, after our rector, Professor Lorito, our Ministry of Education, and previous rector of our university, Professor Manfredi Gaetano, we will have Professor Barbara Majello, she will introduce the figure of Joellen. I should say that between us of the Federico project, Barbara has absolutely insisted to invite you, and we were very pleased to have you. And we were hoping for a seminar in our beautiful site in the island of Capri, but I'm sure that Professor Matteo Lorito will invite you again as soon as possible. Barbara, it's up to you, please.
Okay, so thanks, Roberto, and I just put Joellen CV, a short CV on the chat, so everybody can see what are the expertise of Joellen. And just let me say that I met Joellen in just 1 year ago in Tor Vergata, and on an event on contamination, invited both of us by Maria Cinqua, that is in the audience from LUMSA, and from Edoardo Bellafiore from Tor Vergata and LUMSA. So this is the spirit of our project, to connect with the university in Italy and abroad, because I think internationalization, as Roberto said, is a major goal, and also in this period after pandemic, we hope that we will have time to invite.
Barbara, si è chiuso il microfono.
Okay, I don't know why, but I was speaking before. Okay, did you hear me? Okay, so Joellen is professional, adult professional and community education, and is assistant dean for educational partnership and enrollment for the College of Education at Texas University, and her CV is very big, has a lot of experiences, but she just in brief, she studied Italian and Spanish for many years and has worked in Italy for over 10 years, right, Joellen, in study abroad program and faculty professional development workshops. And so we discussed before, when I met her, the opportunity to exchange our expertise, and when I joined Federico project, was for me a big pleasure to tell my colleague Roberto, Maura, and Pietro to have Joellen with us for the webinar that we are doing today. And in preparing this event, we had already opportunities, even in the remote, due to the pandemic period, to share our ideas and experience with the Maura, with the other people. And of course, I thank all the words that our rector, our dean, and our minister said before, and also the introduction that Roberto has done for the day. And Joellen worked with the Italian university, in particular with Padova, with Monica Fedeli, as the faculty sponsor of the Memorandum of Understanding between Texas State University and the University of Padova, and moreover received a Fulbright course scholar grant to Italy, and from 218 and 219, where she worked in Rome, collaborating with Professor Maria Cinqua, and she was engaged in teaching and research activities that link to issues and needs for internationalization of adult and higher education teaching and learning. So I know that she will spend some words about the opportunity that Fulbright gives to people in linking minds across countries. And just to be short, the major topics of our talk today will focus on what are the benefits and challenges of teaching international graduate students, what attitudes, behaviors, values, teaching skills we need to teach our mentors today, learners in higher education, and how might this experience inform future programs of teaching during globalization and university internationalization. So now is the time to give Joellen her time and to ask everybody to put in chat what they want to discuss with Joellen after her talk. Thank you, Joellen. Thank you, everybody. And is everything in your is up?
Please, Joellen.
Joellen, I think we lose connection. Okay, Joellen, are you with us?
Yeah.
She's here.
Marco, help.
Dunque, Joellen è connessa, deve abilitare l'audio.
I see Joellen freezing.
Non la vedo più.
Ok.
Si starà ricollegando sicuramente.
Il bello della diretta, ovviamente.
Ho visto il mio microfono di nuovo mutato, spero che mi abbiate sentito fino alla fine, ok.
Sì.
Allora, credo che Joellen si stia ricollegando.
Il bello della diretta. Maura, vuoi dirci due parole?
Yes, I'm also very happy that Joellen wanted to introduce, and she will introduce her speech, speaking about the Fulbright experience, which we both shared, but which also I know that our rector shared. So it is very important, I mean, to focus on this opportunity for university scholars and also for students, for PhD students, but also for the students who are enrolled in our courses, because the Fulbright experience is a very challenging one. It helps us to develop a broad network of relationships which are very strong, and we can keep them for a very long time. Myself, I was in 1995 in the Fulbright program, so I welcome Joellen. She's here, but she's back here, and okay, and I knew that you wanted to open up your speech speaking about the Fulbright experience, so I was just introducing your presentation.
Thank you so much. I have no idea what happened. My internet in my house just literally died. I have no idea. So now I'm connected to my phone, and so I will, hopefully that will work for the rest of the time that we're here. I'm so sorry to have gone away for a while. Anyway, I would first of all thank you so much for the opportunity to talk with you. I can't tell you how badly I would love to be for us not to be in the middle of a pandemic, and for me to be able to join you there in Napoli and Capri. That would be a wonderful experience. But what a joy it is to talk with you today. Great thanks for these lovely introductions. Thank you, Roberto, Rettore Lorito, Minister Manfredi, Barbara, Maura, Marco, and I thank you all for joining during this difficult time. I know I saw that Napoli has gone into a situation where you are sheltering in place whenever you can. You might know that the pandemic has gotten quite bad here in the United States as well, so we're doing our very best to keep safe and to keep others safe. So I reach across the oceans with my care and prayers that we come through this quickly. I think I can share my screen. Would that be okay? Okay. All right, can you all still hear me all right? And are you seeing the screen?
Can hear you. We can see your screen. We cannot see the presentations yet, but we can see your screen.
You cannot see the presentation?
No, it's not. We see your screen, but we do not see your presentation.
Okay, let me see.
Abbiamo dei seri problemi. Credo che se Joellen non ritorna dal computer l'audio sarà impossibile. Giusto, ma Joellen,
yes, I'm here.
I think we have problem with your audio.
You have problems with my audio?
Yeah, audio. Maybe you are from the cellular phone?
No.
Sorry to interrupt. It is better to listen to Joellen's voice with an auricular. It is really better if you can go through, and we could listen better.
Yes.
Joellen, if you do have some problems with the presentation, we could also organize that.
Marco shows it.
Yes,
Marco can show it.
Okay, so here we are.
Okay, here we are.
Are you seeing it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now are you seeing the first slide?
Great. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see. Let's try this, and hopefully you can hear me all right as well. So I'm really very pleased to discuss some insights regarding innovative teaching for higher education during internationalization today. I appreciate that I can talk to you in English. While I have studied Italian in Florence many years ago at Centro Linguistico Italiano Serpieri, it is really much better for you, I promise, that I do this in English. So I will. I have put subtitles below for the presentation, and hopefully that will help as well. And I will try to speak not too quickly. So I'll first begin by discussing a little bit about university internationalization, why this is happening or occurring in universities, and then what that means for faculty and instruction at universities. A component of my talk today also includes the description and findings of an international research project that I conducted with Italian colleagues during my Fulbright, which was discussed a little bit earlier. So Alfbach and Knight have indicated that the economic, political, and societal forces are pushing 21st century higher education toward greater international involvement. And Rivzi asserted that global university must now be characterized by its engagement with the processes of globalization, its international networks, and its internationalized curriculum. The field of international ed has matured in recent years, certainly, with the greater recognition of how it uniquely spans the cultural, economic, and interpersonal dimensions of global relations. And of course, the Europe 2020 outline and the agenda for modernization of the European system of higher education there in Europe have really focused in some ways on internationalization of higher education because internationalization across the world has led to a diversity of student populations. So In terms of insights for systematizing university internationalization, we know that international research comes into play, international scholars and students as a part of the context of universities, internationalized curricula, study abroad, including Erasmus, internationalization as a shared vision and academic purpose, as well as the evaluation of internationalization efforts. These are all components of internationalization of universities that should be considered, along with some nuances for context and culture. So the research project that I want to talk with you about today is actually focused on the perceptions and perspectives of Italian faculty who are working in universities across Italy in either international programs that are fully in English or are teaching graduate courses in English at their universities. The name of the project is Transnational Cross-Cultural Adult and Higher Education and the Investment in the Professional Development of Current and Future Educators. My research team, my fantastic research team include, of course, Professoressa Maria Cinque from Nunziante, Monica Fedeli and Concetta Pino from the University of Padova, and Angelina Lapina Salazar, who was my doctoral student at Texas State University, who just graduated this past summer. In terms of the research problems for this particular study, the world's higher education institutions have been engaging for some time now in internationalizing the teaching and research experiences of their students and their academic staff. Internationalization of higher ed recognizes changes in migrancy, globalization, and employability for international diversity and ultimately the need for a cosmopolitan sensibility for care and accountability for each other. There's been a steady trend of increased international student mobility across institutions, and certainly in Italy, using programs like Erasmus, and in countries like Italy, whose native language isn't widely spoken around the world, and now, so they are now offering courses in full graduate programs in English. With increased diversity of student populations that are coming into our universities, they bring in different perspectives and backgrounds, ethnically, culturally, linguistically, politically, religious backgrounds, academic preparation, certainly, and life experiences. These wonderful things, experiences, and cultural differences that are coming in with them into our classrooms, however, pose both opportunities and challenges. In terms of teaching international graduate students, teaching at the university level in Europe is now much more demanding because of the massification and increase in numbers and heterogeneity of student populations, their mobility, and information explosion. Scholars are lamenting now that we do not know much about faculty's perceptions, however, of their roles during internationalization or their ability to adapt to the inherent differences and challenges of teaching international students. As well, we know that faculty often lack sufficient preparation to teach international students, and this is something that happens across universities around the world. And they found that, unfortunately, faculty tend to feel uninformed, undersupported, underprepared, and underconfident when it comes to internationalization. So the purpose of the study overall was to ascertain the perspectives of Italian university faculty regarding their teaching experiences with international graduate students, to identify what ways faculty have engaged to teach these students, and what additional professional development they think would be helpful, and then to determine the needs for future faculty instructional development for teaching international graduate students in adult and higher education in Italy. As such, the research questions include what are the benefits and the challenges of teaching international graduate students, what attitudes, behaviors, values, and teaching skills do instructors believe are needed to teach or mentor today's diverse learners in higher education, in what ways and using which resources, and from whom do instructors learn about and develop these attitudes, behaviors, values, and teaching skills. And ultimately, how might these experiences inform future instructional professional development programs during globalization and university internationalization? So So the theoretical framework of the study is situated cognition, which helps us as researchers and instructors and practitioners to acknowledge and investigate the contexts, the content, the community of practice, and the participation of the community's members, which all influence what is learned and developed. In this study, we noted that teaching international graduate students in higher education programs includes the interaction among faculty, students, disciplinary content and curricula, politics, culture, language, standards, expectations, hierarchies, values, beliefs, and attitudes within classrooms, within programs, departments, and universities themselves. So before I go on, what I'd like for you to think about is your own teaching experiences, and perhaps even your own learning experiences. So do you have international graduate students or international students in your classes? And if so, what is it like for you? So helping to kind of think through your own perspectives. And then I suppose you would be able to have the opportunity to see if what we found in our study resonates with your own experiences. In general, from the literature, a brief overview includes the studies on faculty perspectives on international students, as well as instructional and professional development for teaching at university. So Killick in 2017 asserted, quote, as the human diversity represented in higher education moves to better reflect that of the multicultural and globalizing world in which it is situated, there are significant implications for students and faculty. Generally, faculty appreciate international students' cultural, experiential, and language diversity. They believe that the students provide important global perspectives, exemplify some of the strongest of academic ability, and promote and contribute to campus multilingualism. Faculty also value the cultural, religious, political, and social learning opportunities that become possible for all students when international students are present. There are also some challenges, however. Challenges of teaching international students can include differences in academic background and preparation, differences in language and instruction proficiency, sociocultural differences, and financial and legal issues. Highlighted are writing, oral communication, reading, and listening concerns, as well as academic expectations. The kinds of professional development for teaching at university, there's quite a bit of research about professional development for instruction at the university level. Some of that connects well with this particular research is that professional development for teaching at university indicate that faculty don't have a lot of experiences with diverse populations, diverse student populations. With the increasing popularity of international graduate programs and courses in English in Italian universities, adequate preparation to teach and learn in this area of international innovation in higher education is essential. And that work has been highlighted in Virginia and Krista's work, as well as in Virginia's work, along with some others. Good instructional quality and effective and culturally sensitive teaching and communication with students must be part of the faculty member's repertoire. Faculty expectations regarding student learning may conflict with the way students who come from various cultural backgrounds learn. Not enough time or support to share practices about teaching amongst the professors and researchers that are in the programs is a reality because of the multifarious requirements and responsibilities that you have as professors. Professional development can be gained through, however, workshops, seminars, counseling, supervision, researching one's own teaching, and conferences. In terms of professional development for teaching as well, researchers in higher education learning and teaching highlight that instruction needs to move away from traditional lecture-based approaches and becoming more active and learner-centered, benefiting both domestic and international students. Faculty may also form networks and collegial mentoring to exchange innovations in teaching and resources. These informal instruction.
Sorry for interrupt you just a moment. We hear a very terrible noise. Can you try to speak very, very close to the microphone, or if it's possible to have cuffie?
I'm using them actually, so and I have not had problems with them before, but let's see. I'm not sure what I can
Just
do to.
try to speak very close to the microphone because we hear a very, very, very noisy that is difficult to listen to you.
Oh, I'm so very sorry. Is this better if I hold this? If I hold the? I'm using wireless microphone and earbuds, which have tended to be working very well. I'm holding one of them in front of me now. Is that better?
No, we hear such as it's fun, but we will listen to you with the subtitles, so don't worry, but try to be very close to the microphone, okay?
Yes, I certainly will try to do that.
Okay.
Technology problems, I'm very sorry. Okay, so faculty may also form networks in which they can share the innovations and teaching experiences and resources, and also offer emotional support, as well as, but unfortunately there's scant research that has been dedicated in the field of higher education to investigate how professional development can occur for instructors of international students. So for the study, the participant goal was to recruit instructors from Italian universities working in the northern, the central, and the southern regions of Italy, both public and private universities. In order to participate, instructors needed to teach courses or programs fully in English in which international graduate students were enrolled. And you can see under recruitment which of the universities were participating, did participate in the study. It was an electronic online survey. We piloted the study beforehand with 18 professors across the United States as well as Italy to enhance the language used and terminology that would be appropriate. The questions that we asked included demographic information, including position, gender, knowledge of other languages, and so forth, instructional formats and native countries of international graduate students taught annually, attitudes and values necessary for teaching international graduate students, types of instructional professional development, both formal and informal, that were engaged for teaching international students, challenges and benefits, and instructional choices of teaching these students, and then desires and recommendations for future professional development. We had a total of 195 participants, 67% teach in international programs. And here you can see the years of seniority of our participants, as well as the makeup of academic disciplinary areas. The sample included faculty across academic rank, as well as numbers of years teaching. We also asked from where their international students hailed, and we can see that the majority of international students who were attending the participants' courses came from Europe, while there were also international graduate students from Africa and Asia. Interestingly, 52% of respondents also indicated that they had been international students themselves. In terms of the analyses, the quantitative data were analyzed with the use of descriptive statistics, and the research team coded and analyzed qualitative data using constant comparison and thematic analysis methods. We also used deductive analyses that looked for evidence of context, content, community of practice, and participation within instructional communities of practice. For the findings, we analyzed the qualitative responses about the benefits of teaching international diverse graduate students, and thematic analysis indicated that the benefits were increased cultural awareness for students and instructor, exchange of perspectives from around the world, respect for diversity and increased flexibility for students and themselves, improved communication skills and synthesis of content, improved research, learning to personalize the content for the learners in the class, and increased openness and flexibility for both students and self. In terms of the challenges of teaching international graduate students, the first thing that was highlighted is language from both the students and the professor, which would have been in English, academic preparation and background, cultural differences, classroom relationships among students and the professor, and classroom participation norms. In terms of previous instructional professional development, we asked participants if they had attended formal and or informal professional development focused on teaching. 39% had attended formal professional development and 55% had not. Additionally, 47% said that they had engaged in informal professional development and 47% said they had not. Based on the research literature, we compiled a list of commonly associated attitudes and values for teaching diverse learners. And when we asked them to think about the attitudes and values important for successfully teaching and mentoring international graduate students, respondents were provided a list of these 13 possible responses and were encouraged to choose all that they believe apply. There were no significant differences regarding teaching experience, rank, and gender that were found across the responses. Over half the respondents identified openness, intercultural awareness, inclusiveness, and flexibility. Adaptability, culturally, and to change, along with curiosity, were also identified by a heterogeneous representation of 1/3 of the sample. However, commitment to individualized learning and students' cross-cultural development each garnered only 23.5% of participant selections, and social equity and and a results orientation were only chosen by 15.9% and 8.2% of respondents, respectively. 9 participants provided additional insights in an open-ended text box designated as additional or other. Analyses of these further suggestions included passion, team building, and focus on language proficiency appropriateness. At the same time, 7 of respondents asserted that the same attitudes and values are important for teaching all students, regardless of nationality. 4 of these respondents were either associate or full professors, male, and with at least 9 to 12 years of teaching experience. 1 was an associate professor with 20+ years of teaching experience who did not define gender, and the additional 2 were in other professional instructional roles at 0 to 12 years of experience and identified as female. To ascertain the perspectives within the instructional communities of practice that our participants were engaged in, we also asked our participants about their perceptions regarding their colleagues' attitudes toward international graduate students. The majority of respondents, 82%, indicated that the attitudes about international graduate students in their classes were either extremely positive or slightly to moderately positive, while 14% perceived faculty attitudes as slightly to moderately negative or extremely negative. 8% participants, 4%, chose not to respond to the question. Significant difference for teaching experience, rank, or gender were not found across the responses. In analyzing the open-ended qualitative data, participants included about their perceptions. We identified codes, including positive attitudes about participating in internationalization and the value of cultural differences when teaching international graduate students, and mixed attitudes regarding the challenges of teaching international graduate students who came with varying academic preparations, backgrounds, and expectations. For those who were perceived as having negative attitudes toward international graduate students in their classes, these attitudes stemmed from concerns about cultural differences, needed changes in instruction, and the challenges of teaching in English. In terms of the perceptions of colleagues' attitudes about the value of cultural differences brought by international graduate students, here are some of the quotes. Students coming from abroad can be an invaluable asset in the class, telling about their cultures and comparing them with Italian and other cultures. We all believe that studying in a multicultural environment has an important role in the development of soft skills, and international students are most welcome as they provide both professors and colleagues with new and different hints toward the subject, the methodology, and the approach to issues. In terms of attitudes about the challenges of teaching international graduate students with varying academic preparations, backgrounds, and expectations, there were 65 respondents who specified caution embedded in faculty attitudes with regard to teaching and participation in international diverse graduate classes. These data were interspersed across the slightly to moderately positive attitude choice and the slightly to moderately negative attitude choice. Discussions of inadequate or different academic preparations, as well as the perception that international graduate students have different expectations than domestic students, were highlighted in qualitative data. Stereotypes about international graduate learners were also identified. Faculty annotations including students from some specific countries are considered more prepared than others. Moreover, 7 respondents across ranks, genders, and length of time teaching claimed of Erasmus students were often a problem. As one participant wrote, international students, especially those coming from specific programs, are literally stigmatized as being lazy and those who are a burden in class. This person indicated, I am strongly against this attitude, but it is awfully common in my department. It's clear that while many believe the attitudes of their colleagues towards having international students in their graduate classes were generally positive, these learners are sometimes considered academically weaker, less prepared, and less motivated. And you can read some of the additional quotes that came from the qualitative data regarding some of the challenges and experiences of our participants. In terms of the negative attitudes about needed changes in teaching and practices and the challenge of teaching in English, 23 comments across the participant demographics provided observations about the negative attitudes present in their instructional communities. These attitudes were based on the need to modify lessons and to teaching approaches and to contend with the demands of teaching in English. These concerns may be rooted in participants' perceptions that faculty members within their communities and practice lacked preparation to teach in English, transitioning from their traditional courses, lectures of course that were delivered in Italian with Italian students, was found to be a challenge and a negative change for some participants. One respondent explained, in general, my perception is that my colleagues would still prefer teaching Italian. Others said international students are welcome but require flexible teaching methods. Colleagues tend to treat foreigners in a different manner, meaning that they apply lower standards of assessment, which is just not stimulating and unfair. Another person said to teach in a foreign language is more demanding. And then a fourth said a sizable amount of my colleagues are not comfortable with teaching in English or to deal with students who do not speak Italian. In terms of changes made in instruction when teaching international graduate students, we have provided a list of instructional changes and approaches participants engaged in teaching international graduate students. Here they could also choose all that applied. The top responses were they simplified instruction or explanations, they asked students about their learning needs, they engaged students in active learning strategies, and they incorporated examples, stories, case studies, or other curriculum resources. Over 45 participants incorporated collaborative grouping assignments and invited students to tell them more about themselves, their lives, and their interests. And 36 participants brought in guest speakers from different cultural backgrounds, incorporated research and findings conducted in other cultures, and gave choice in assignments, projects, research, and demonstrations of student learning. Just over 10% of participants engaged their students in peer teaching. We were also interested in understanding the ways faculty learned about how to teach international students. Respondents could check all that applied here as well, and we can see that the top responses included international travel, as well as professional development, workshops or seminars offered by their own universities. They utilized academic discipline, conferences, as well as books. Importantly, though, we noted that 53, or over 25% of the respondents indicated that they had not learned about teaching international students at all. Yet 70% of respondents wished that they would have had more professional development for teaching international learners. So when asked what topics of professional development participants were interested in, we provided a list of 42 professional development topics from the field of instructional development literature. Participants could click all that applied. The topics with at least 20 clicks included the following. Of this list, 34% of the participants chose active learning strategies, 26% chose building critical thinking skills and collaborative learning or group-based learning, 23% chose learning how to teach in English, and between 15 and 18% of participants chose service learning, teaching students who are not proficient in English, classroom assessment techniques, using gaming in the classrooms, and to learn more about diversity in the classroom. Then we asked how they would like to continue how to learn about teaching international graduate students. We asked about their preferred modes, and respondents could click any that may have applied. 110 participants chose professional development workshops or seminars offered by their own institutions, which was clearly the big winner here. And then you can also see that varying participants also indicated international travel, conferences, websites, workshops or seminars offered by outside organizations, videos, books, mentorships, and other. 22 also indicated that they were not interested in learning more about how to teach international students. So to wrap up, we'll talk just a little bit how these findings connect with the literature, as well as thinking about what implications from our practice and continued professional development we may be wanting to engage in. Many of our findings echoed previous research regarding faculty perceptions of international students' experiences, including lack of integration with domestic students, challenges with language, academic background expectations, and certainly cultural barriers and academic and social difficulties. We believe that the faculty respondents who teach international graduate students in English and Italian universities are dedicated and motivated to do so, and many value instructional professional development and would like to have additional training about teaching and learning. For those who want additional training, they want workshops, they want courses and seminars, they want to be able to engage in mentoring experiences with other faculty and have online educational opportunities to learn about teaching international students. They're interested in professional and personal travel, and they're very interested in English language acquisition and teaching in English to diverse students, diverse language students in their classes. Importantly, I think it's also noted that 22 of the participants did not have interest in continuing to learn more. Regarding attitudes about teaching and learning, the result that fewer than 25% of respondents believe a commitment to individualized learning is necessary for successfully teaching international and graduate students diverges from what previous literature has indicated from Cornelius White, as well as Hattie's studies, which asserted that learner-centered approaches were essential and effective for meaningful learning participation of all students. This divergence may be explained by a focus generally of universities to define internationalization across the world through recruitment of international staff, supporting staff mobility, recruitment of international students, and developing joint programs, as well as offering full programs in English, rather than focusing on teaching and learning participation and interaction in the classroom. Notably, our participants identified intercultural awareness and inclusiveness as the second and third highest attitudes and values necessary for teaching this population, but a social equity and cultural sensitivity perspective was acknowledged by fewer than 16% of participants, indicating that these faculty members did not link awareness and inclusiveness with the concept of social equity. These ideas may be addressed as well in professional development. In terms of the implication for university internationalization, we contend that universities really need to go beyond counting numbers of international programs, faculty, and students and move to more deep consideration for how instructional communities of practice can learn together to support internationalization and diversity of students. And we highly recommend that institutions ask their teaching staff to reflect on their individual and collective values, attitudes, and instructional approaches for teaching international graduate students regularly. Questions programs and universities might ask are, what are the students' learning goals, teaching approaches, and educational outcomes that we expect to be associated with our internationalization endeavors? How can our instructional communities of practice develop culturally sensitive approaches and the internet cultural mindsets and skills necessary for teaching diverse learners? How do we define full participation by all members of our communities and practice that encourages values and learns from cultural and linguistic diversity? And finally, what more do we need to learn and develop together in order to support and encourage full participation for all graduate students in our programs? Finally, the implications for faculty professional development include connection with the needs of current instructors regarding teaching skills and styles, language of instruction development, cultural sensitivity in instructional interactions, and internationalization of curricula. While we found in previous studies in the United States that instructors are individually oriented and could use to increase socialization of the faculty professional development across their communities of practice, Italian faculty may need to be sold on the importance of learning more about cross-cultural international skills and teaching practices. Support opportunities to learn about active learning methods, strategies for inclusive problem solving, discussion, participation, and interaction, English language acquisition for pedagogical purposes and content areas, and cross-cultural learning and teaching for social equity would also be topics that would be highly desirable. I also recommend incorporating and valuing non-formal and informal learning activities that connect with faculty needs. The theoretical underpinnings of communities of practice can also assist faculty and administrators when developing new programs and/or courses. Importantly, they should work toward understanding the communities of practice of the discipline and that within the graduate program, the context, the contents, and the participation therein. So grazie mille. Thank you very much for your attention. I'd be happy to respond to a few questions if you have any. I'm really very sorry for the audio not being very good. So I hope that we can continue to have a good discussion.
Well, thank you, Joellen, for such a very interesting and stimulating presentation. As we have all seen, there's a thrilling interplay between differences and competencies, thinking of internationalization of higher education. So I think that now we could collect some questions, reflections, and in the meantime, we could also ask Barbara, Maura, and Pietro to open the discussion with their reflections. And in fact, Maura is already ready.
Yes, Roberto, I wanted to thank Joellen for this beautiful presentation, which of course points out many interesting issues. I was impressed in particular by the social equity issue. So because teaching to foreign students involves equity and social issues, which are not always taken into account. So they remain as a background problem, which some way have an impact on the performances of the students. So I believe this is an issue that we should take into account very seriously, considering the organization of all the structures of the university, and also offering to the students specific services which can help them in participate better to the university life, which I believe this is a very important issue that we should take into account. And the other issue, I was impressed also by the issue that teaching in English is not enough, because there should be a knowledge of English connected for pedagogical purposes, and English connected to the academic content. So the issue of teaching a specific content in a foreign language is an issue that can be solved only through, a better an implementation of our linguistic capacities, but it should be something more articulated. And there is another question by a colleague, Emanuele Barbato, who says that the most challenging part in the education to international students is the identification of the learning objectives, their unmet needs. While we are supposed to know what the educational needs are of our Italian community, that is not always evident for the international community, given its inherent heterogeneous background. Could you share your experience on this point?
There is also, yes, there is, sorry, there is also a question from Pasquale Maffia, who has raised his hand. Pasquale?
Hi there. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
I am Pasquale Maffia. I work in dual affiliation between Napoli and the University of Glasgow. I'm an immunologist, and I've been leading the immunology program in Glasgow for the last 5 years in Scotland. So I know pretty well some of the challenges. I think you have touched on a lot of issues. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer, because starting this discussion in Napoli, I think, is extremely important. Second, I would like to thank Joel for the very nice talk. I think you have discussed of a lot of important issues, but you have missed, I think, 2 or 3 of the key points that I think are the limitation for the Italian academics teaching to an international community. In my opinion, the first one is that in Italy there is too much emphasis on content rather than quality of teaching. We are teaching too much, too many frontal hours of teaching, too many notions, which for an international community is simple and digestible. I got my kids that are studying in primary school in the UK, and they are growing up in the UK, and they do nothing compared to what they do in primary school in Italy. So we need to learn that if we want to arrive to an international community, we need to reduce substantially the amount of content of knowledge and invest much more in the quality in terms of more tutorial, more workshop, and more interaction. The second key fundamental point is that in Italy, I received zero training on all the issues that you have touched on in terms of equal and diversity, unconscious bias. These are themes that simply Italians academics don't know, and or the majority, of course. So I've received zero training, and I became aware of all of this coming to the UK and being forced to think about all the mistakes that I was doing. And I'm coming to the last point, which I think is the most important and is the main cultural barrier, which is not English. The problem is that the Italian university is based on a system in which the professor is in charge of the entire course, the content of the course, the delivery, and the assessment. This is impossible because it's unfair, and the balance between the professor and the student is always in favor of the professor. In the UK, the students are our clients, and I need to serve them. Otherwise, I am in trouble. And to do that, you need to take off some power from the professor, having more people working on one single course, introducing always something like double marking so that you can moderate the contribution of one single professor to the course. So there are big cultural changes that need to be tackled together with some practical ones. Anyway, thank you very much for the contribution, much appreciated.
Well, I suggest that all the 3 first questions from Pasquale, Emanuele, and Maura requires a lot of time to be answered. So I think, apart from the joke, I think we could ask Joellen a first answer to these 3 very first answer, and then we could give floor to other people.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Good. I first want to talk to Pasquale to say that is a beautiful and insightful understanding of the context of Italian universities. And actually, it's not that different from from other universities that I've worked in here in the United States as well, and what the research says. So I've been very fortunate to conduct professional development for faculty in many different universities there in Italy, and with my colleague Maria Cinque, as well as with my colleagues at the University of Padua, and they're often on active learning strategies and those kinds of strategies for engaging people. I'm getting a message here that I'll look at in just a second, Giuseppe. In any case, there's always someone, or more than someone, who is very concerned about how can I do all of these strategies for teaching and learning and get through all of the content that I'm required to get through. It's always a question. And it is a difficult question. And to your point, Pasquale, you said it so beautifully. We need to focus on what our learning outcome objectives are. What do we want them to be able to do with our content and knowledge? Not just be able to memorize, but what do we want them to do with that content? And actually, there can be a lot less content that we put in to have them be able to have our students be able to get to the doing and the thinking in the ways they need to think without having so much content. And then your comments about training on social equity and the wide varieties of concepts in those ideas, and not having training for that is also kind of connected to me with the way that you were talking about the balance of power in the university classrooms. In my field, which is like formazione di adulti in the Italian academic system, my profession is adult professional and community education. And we talk about guides on the side rather than the sage on the stage. And the idea of really working more toward facilitation of learning rather than transfer of knowledge from my head to yours is something that we talk about and have been talking about for many years. It's a different mindset, it's a different philosophy about what teaching and learning are. And they roll in together this idea of power in the classroom and the concept of social equity through education. I mean, we don't use this phrase a lot in English in the United States, but as a pedagogue, if you will, we believe in pedagogy and andragogy that education is access to equity. But there are also so many other things that we need to be talking about in our classrooms. And I get a lot of pushback in my professional development from faculty who don't think it's their job to teach about social equity, to teach about the structures and systemic problems that we may have that keep the socioeconomic structures across our population. So I understand that that's a difficult conversation, but it's also a part of the soft skills that we need to be talking about and teaching about with our learners, our young learners particularly, as they move out into very diverse, multicultural, multilingual work and life. And so, bravissimo, Pasquale. The first question, I think was about, if I understood the question, it's our international students come in with all these different expectations and varying backgrounds, and maybe learning objectives, and that it's easier to understand what our domestic Italian students, where they're coming from. How are we supposed to find out how to learn about what our international students, where they're coming from? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
The learning objectives it's different between for international students and Italian students.
Right. So the only way that I know how to find out about what students' needs and interests are is by asking them. So one strategy that I use in every single class that I have, whether it's a very large class or it's a small graduate course, is I conduct what I would call a learning needs and resources survey or questions that I do assessment before the class begins. So I send out, if it's a large class, I send out a survey and I ask, you know, why are you taking this class? What are your hopes for learning in this class? What do you hope to do at the end of this class? What learning resources do you have at your command? What do you wish that you had? What concerns do you have about the class? And so forth. And even if only, research has shown is even if only 20% respond, you're still going to get a much better understanding of who your student population in your class is. And you can connect your teaching to those needs as well. In terms of academic preparation, that's harder. So someone comes into your class and you would expect them to have knowledge of a certain amount of things, and they don't. That's harder to find out, but you can do ungraded, but you can do assessments at the beginning of the class in order to find out where your students are as they're coming in. That's been used with great success. And when I have international students in my class, and in my university, we probably have, in my program, we probably have about 20% of our graduate students that are international students. I try to really work a way to get in touch with them face-to-face, or in this case, Zoom to Zoom, so that I can ask them some questions about their experiences, both in their academic background, but also how they're doing being here in Texas, of all places in the United States, and in their experiences in the program, to set a communicative stage that has them know that I care about their learning experiences and I want them to be successful. It opens up the lines of communication that way. I try to do that with many students. I don't always get to all of them, but I really reach out to my international students because they are really coming into our classrooms with a very different positionality. So those are some ways that I can tell you about now.
Thank you. There is Valeria Costantino wants to ask a question. Valeria, please.
Yes, Valeria Costantino from the Department of Pharmacy here at University of Naples. I was very interested in your talk, so I wish to thank the organizer for this interesting afternoon. And I have been working for the Erasmus program in my department for many years. So I experienced a lot of problems with the very small flexibility of my colleagues, of some of my colleagues, when they need to interact with the international student, Erasmus student. Most of our students are, by the way, European students. So let's say Spanish, and so not very different from Italian students. Still, we experience a lot of problem in flexibility, in trying to change or to adapt the content of the programs. So my question and what I would like you to suggest from your experience is how to let to young generation, or to teach to young generation to be more flexible and to be open-minded towards this international class that, of course, are for sure a richness for all of us, teachers and students at the same time. Because in my opinion, the value of the diversity, of the cultural diversity is one of the most important things that we can teach in our class. So I know that it's not an easy answer, but what, from your experience, what can be the way to teach to new generation to be more flexible and to be ready to make program a little bit different, or as Pasquale was suggesting, to try to reduce the content, I think like this. Thanks.
Joellen, your microphone.
There we go. Sorry about that. It's a great question, Valeria, and I want to just clarify that when you say that the young generation, we're not talking students, we're talking new faculty, right? And researchers and maybe faculty. Yeah. Okay. I would say that the majority of the younger faculty that I've met have been more open to diverse student populations and the necessity to have global perspectives on their curriculum and in their understandings of their curriculum. But honestly, if we want to ensure that this is important for us, then we talk about it. We discuss our values about what we think is important for our program, what stands our program apart perhaps from other programs. And it does take the senior faculty mentorship in many ways. That can be very, very valuable to help our younger faculty to stay abreast of new international perspectives on the field, new research that's coming not just from their own work or others around them, but from international perspectives. I think that because I'm so steeped in communities of practice as a theoretical frame, I think it's really important for us to do the hard work of asking ourselves, why do we think this is important? Why do we want international students in our midst? In what ways did these students help to enhance our own learning personally as professors, but also the learning of our domestic students, and helping to have a baseline of that understanding as a program, as a faculty, I think is probably a reasonable first step if that's not already in place in your programs. A lot of newer faculty have traveled more, and this is just something that's a reality of our world, and actually speak more languages than somebody like me in my age group. And so I would say that's going to be typically going to be a benefit. The issue is that I think it was Matteo who said that Italian professors know that they're excellent teachers, and so why do we need to have faculty development about teaching? And you are excellent teachers, and that's very true. But the reality is that we can always continue to learn, and so the expectation that we continue to learn about learning, and we continue to learn about the facilitation of that learning is really essential. And I find the less I talk and the more I have my students engaging in conversation, the more they're learning. So, and when they can collaborate in discussions with people who have diverse backgrounds, then that's doing the work of the learning as well for us. So, I don't know that there's a little perfect blue pill to give you to make everything perfect for your faculty to start valuing the requirements of teaching internationally diverse students. I think that's a good starting point of the conversations about what you value and what you value about learning.
Can I just chip in 1 second with a comment on this?
Yes, of course.
So, just 1 second, Valeria. I think this is a great question, and as Joellen said, the key is training. We need to invest more in training in Federico II, and I think we should provide training to young faculties and younger generation, training from people that are regularly working in an international environment and are aware of this kind of of content and issues. So probably maybe we could sit down together with Barbara, Maura, Roberto, that are doing an excellent job, and the internationalization committee that you're part of, and we can start to create a program for young faculties working in this direction. I'm happy to help if required, because I think I've changed because of the training. We are working in education, we must believe in education, but the training must come from people that can provide the content and not from senior faculty, which of course may be very good in Italy, but they are not so aware of all the issues that we've discussed today. That's my point.
This is a nice
Pasquale, we are very happy to have you on board. It's very important for us to have a big group of people thinking together. And yeah. I see that Giorgio Serino and Gianluca Polesi are willing to add some questions, and then Barbara as well.
Just if nobody else wants, but just a little bit of discussion. And thanks to Pasquale, and we give the voice to Polese, or who is before? Maura?
Giorgio Serino and Gianluca Polesi. I didn't notice who raised the hand.
Giorgio is first.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good evening to everybody, and thank you for organizing this very interesting meeting. And thank you, of course, to Joellen. I personally, I've been teaching a course for international students in the last 8 years, and I really agree with most of the things and the result of the survey that Joellen showed. And also, I agree with Pasquale Maffia and Valeria Costantino about the difficulties that we are facing in our university in organizing international courses and in welcoming in a proper way international students. But I think that we have also a commission in our university, which is formed by 17 professor, faculty members from different areas. Valeria is one of the members, and I've been heading this commission in the last 6 or 7 years. And I think we did a lot of work in the direction of internationalization, especially for improving the number of international courses in our university, which is still quite small. We have 12 courses which are entirely taught in English. We have about 14 double degrees with other universities. And what we have noticed that in the last few years that there has been a significant, although we had very small number of international students at the beginning, now there are quite a few. This year, incredibly, we doubled the number of applications from international students, although there was the COVID emergency, but we had a big increase. My question now, I go to the question that I would like to ask Joellen. I think that Europe, but particularly Italy, has big perspectives in increasing the number of international students and international courses. This year, due to the work done by our ministry, Gaetano Manfredi, that was introducing the talk, there was a new internet platform for applications from abroad for students who would like to study in our universities, the Università platform, and this was a very important step forward and provided. I think this was also one of the reasons why the number of applications from abroad to Italian university increased so much. I think that, as I was telling before, Europe because Europe has a big tradition of the Erasmus program, in which we have, it is almost 30 years now that this program started. And so there is universities are in some way organized and used to welcome students from other countries, although is mainly from European countries. And now with Erasmus is a kind of program which is unique of Europe, and I don't know in other continents of similar programs. There are exchange programs in the United States, but of course and also in other continents of the world. But Erasmus is particular of Europe because we have a European Union, but with people speaking different languages, with different cultures. And so this is, I think, is a very big advantage with respect to other continents. And so this may, in the future, give a big, this experience in the world of international competition, also in the world of attracting international students, can be a very big advantage. And in particular, Italy is a country, as everybody knows, especially southern Italy, is very open to foreign people, to different cultures. And what I've always noticed that once students from abroad come and study in our university, they are always very happy about their experience, about the environment, about the friends, and the type of experience that they do. So my question is, according to the fact that Joellen has been... Sorry?
Apart from the food and the wine.
Apart from the food and the wine, of course. And so I would like to know what is if Joellen agrees with my idea that we have a big possibility of improving our international capacity of attracting foreign students. Although there is a lot of still to do, because in our university we have a problem of providing sufficiently good service to the students and welcoming properly and so on. But we are working in this direction. So do you think that in Italy, and in particular in southern Italy, we can, working hard and filling all the gaps and all the difficulties that also some of them were indicated by Pasquale Maffia and Valeria Costantino, we can have big perspectives in becoming a real international university and a country which welcomes and a lot of international students from all over the world.
Thanks, Giorgio. And I don't know if Joellen wants to say something in answering this question. Then we have Gianluca Polese from my department, referent of the Erasmus program.
I think your question, Giorgio, is do I believe that Italy itself, as well as maybe focus on southern Italy, has a real possibility of recruiting or engaging more international students? Is that what the question is?
Yes. This is my question.
I don't think there's a question of that. I think that is absolutely a huge opportunity for you. I think that there are questions about running. There are philosophical questions about having programs fully in English rather than in Italian, for example, or in German, in terms of not valuing the home language. And so I've read a lot of that, and I really understand those questions and concerns. But I think that Italy is, first off, you just look at the tourism numbers that Italy have. People want to come to Italy. They want to be there. I want to be there. I would be in Italy all of my life, if I possibly could. So you already have so many things that bring people there. And your universities are astounding. They have incredible histories and insights, and have been progressive all along the centuries in terms of university higher education there in Italy. So yes, I think there's no question that you do. I do think that because the rest of the world doesn't speak Italian as much, that having these programs in English is probably valued. It's probably going to help that cause. It's definitely going to help that cause if you want to do it. But definitely make sure that they learn Italian.
Thanks, Joellen. And now we have I just wanted to say just a few words before Gianluca. I think that from this discussion, and I thank all the discussant in the Pasquale and everybody that said something, that internationalization and thinking to global teaching will help also us to reconsider a little bit the way that we teach at our students. I agree with Pasquale, and I really appreciate his word, undigestible, sometimes too much content, but too much content also for our Italian students. So maybe globalization of teaching globalization will help us to reconsider a little bit in this time the way we do teaching in general. So now, Gianluca, the microphone.
Good evening to everybody, and thank you for letting me speak in this contest. I want to thank Joellen for her speech and to illustrate us all the data that she told. And also Valeria and Giorgio, that I know very well because we met several times in our international office, speaking about how we can improve our internationalization. And I want to point I want to underline some point that I put in my sheet here. That's probably in the US, I have experienced it to be there for a couple of years at Michigan State University for my postdoc, and I realized that in the US is a multicultural situation, because a lot of people comes from every part of the world, so it's easy to be international, and it's easier even because all the other people must speak English. That is the language of the land, where they go to learn a few things, because United States is still the opportunity lands that everybody in the world look as it is. But for our culture and our situations, mainly for not scientific issues, we have a lot of things that is hard to teach in other languages. Besides that, I thought that our university is growing a lot, and what Giorgio was saying before than me, that we made a lot of improvement on internationalization in these last years. And I am very happy about that. We, in our department, we host also an international master degree with students that are coming from other parts of the world. Of course, we are more attractive for people that are coming from developing nations. But in the last few years, we had some interest also from other country and country from the other continent, people from US or Chile even for our master degree. So I thought that we are making a lot of progress in this sense. I think that we should invest a lot more, besides to, of course, to teach in English and make improvement or learn how to speak and how to teach in another language, and of course to get all the information about the students that have a different culture and have a different background, we have to invest a lot of infrastructure, because our international office, it's a very small office that have to manage a lot of people that come from abroad, and we are they are underestimated because they have a lot of work to do, and we should improve on people that could help students coming from abroad, and also on infrastructure in terms of a real infrastructure, of a place where to host people coming from abroad. We barely have infrastructure for people that have to move back and forward from one place to another of our city. So we are suffering in somehow for this situation, for we have something that is missing. We do not have enough place where people can sleep, where people can be host, and of course we are very open-minded people, because we were in the center of the Mediterranean, and we are able to manage to communicate even with our hands. So, but the main problem, I guess, that we have now, it's in logistic more than teaching. And I don't know if Joelle can agree with me, but in the US, when you go there to learn, you have to start from a TOEFL grade that is adequate to go there and learn. We do not ask this for our students that come from abroad to learn Italian. That would be the best way to teach what is the real our culture, but we should have a baseline, at least in English, because sometimes they come students from abroad that they do not speak English, they do not speak Italian, and it's very hard. You can be more flexible as you want, but sometimes it's hard to communicate.
Yeah, it is a different context than the United States. I will say that that language is still an issue, because, like you just explained, some of our international students come to the United States. They can, if they can pass the TOEFL or the IELTS, then they can, to our standards, then they can be in our programs. But honestly, that does not actually necessitate that they're going to be successful, because their English is not at an academic level sometimes that is going to be required for our courses. So it is, and our, this is a genuine critique, a valued critique, that our country doesn't speak any other language. No, those who speak English tend not to speak other languages. Of course, we have a lot of other languages here from people that are Americans but have different heritage backgrounds. But a lot of professors don't speak other languages, and so they don't even understand what it means to acquire academic registers of English, and have very little patience for that. So it's not always so easy there. But the infrastructure component is really important, Gianluca. It really, really is. And because international students, lots of students, but definitely international students, can get lost. And I mean lost because they don't know how to integrate well into the community of the university. And so having those supports is really an essential component of internationalization. In fact, when I think about internationalization of higher education, I think of internationalized research, I think of international scholars and students, I think of international, of languages and study abroad, and I think about those support systems that are going to help both students and faculty to navigate what this kind of diversity is.
Okay, I see now Pietro Nunziante, who is a colleague participating in the staff of the Federico project, who wants to tell something, and then we are going to close the.
Okay, thank you. Just few things. I'm really grateful to Joellen, also because this meeting is a kind of trigger activity that open a discussion, a real deep discussion around the terms of internationalization. I'm full of notes. I'm not going to bore you anymore. I just would like to say few things. One thing is for sure that when we face international students, we can fall down into the selection bias. I mean, if we don't have a balance in our diverse classroom, we can have this unbalanced condition that we are not going to give to the minority the real space, the floor. And so this is one question. Then in Italy, especially, we have the attitude, maybe grace to the Erasmus project, as Giorgio Serino said, that we build it up. We are, I can say, teachers with Erasmus. Almost all of us now are teachers with Erasmus experience. So we are European teachers. But at the same time, we are opening to the Mediterranean area, to other areas, the south of the world. Not only because our society is changing, but also because we have migration. We didn't have migration 40 years ago. We didn't have this huge migration. So university, I'm focusing on the fact that university now has a real responsibility to open inside the melting pot of our society, to open the door to all the migrants, first, second, and third generation. University has that responsibility. We have this diversity in our cities now, also in the South Italy, but we don't have the balanced condition that we have in the society inside the university. Sorry.
Pietro, ti abbiamo perso nell'ultima frase.
Scusami, sentite adesso?
Yes, after
I'm just focusing on the fact that this diversity, the melting pot, that now we have in our schools, I can say, in our cities, also in the South Italy, will means that we have to open the door of our university. It's not only question of languages. It's not only thinking the diversity is not only the mother tongue, but it is how we face, we mix, we activate the knowledge in an active and in a proactive way. And so I have a great expectation from the role that the university will take in the next years to create a more open society. For sure, at eye level, I have to observe something that, for example, we have to fill the gap between disciplines. For sure, in the hard science, we have a community that has a technical language that help a lot to build community, and maybe in humanities, we have a gap to fill. I have to say one more thing, that from my perspective, the real challenge that also Joellen helped us, but I can say all the Federico project, is to change the perspective, to see the teaching from the perspective of learning, to see in a different way the way in which we teach. So that means that we have to put the student in the center. This is the main point from my perspective, to help the university to take this cultural shock that we will have with the global society in the next years and maybe the next months. It's an acceleration process. So thank you very much, Joellen, and thank you, everyone.
So I I think, Maura, are you still with us?
Yeah, no, I wanted to know. No, I wanted to know if Joellen wanted to add something. Otherwise, we can close.
Oh, thank you. I would say to Pietro that the things that he was bringing up is a really important context for the University of Napoli, and that is that you're, without having to bring tons of people from other places who don't already live there, you already have a very multicultural community in Napoli, and that access to, you're bringing in access to your university is much like what we say in the United States, which is called first-generation students. First-generation students are those whose parents didn't go to college, didn't go to university, and the path to university, and once they are in university, is a very different path than for those students whose parents were in university and their parents were in university. So these first-generation students are much like many of the community members you may have in Napoli in the south of Italy, with migrancy being has been over a number of years in Italy. That it's an incredible opportunity to enrich the university as well as the community with education by involving all people, all sub-communities within the city. So yeah, it's a huge opportunity for you, and placing those learners in the center is exactly the way to go. And it doesn't mean to ignore your Italian students, of course not. It means that we place our students in the center, whether they're the minority or the majority.
Just Maura, let's see if Maura.
Yes.
Maura.
I saw the Matteo.
I saw Matteo. Yes, I saw Matteo as well. So we just wanted to know if Matteo wanted to add something as a closure, or
if Maria Cinque is with us.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, just
my camera doesn't work.
Just at the end of the meeting, we are welcome Maria.
Thank you. Many greetings. It was very interesting, the debate after Joellen's presentation. Many important points were raised concerning faculty development and internationalization. Thank you so much. Hi, Joellen.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao, Maria. So let's see if Matteo Lorito is still with us, or Maura can close the meeting.
Before Maura closing the meeting, I wish to remember us all the next appointment on Friday, 27th, with the last laboratory about the introduction to massive open online courses, how to practice this kind of courses, and with our colleagues from the center, the Federica Web Learning Center of our university. Thank you, Joellen. Thank you all.
Joellen, since your audio was not very good, we have to meet again in Napoli, or in Napoli.
Okay.
Okay.
You insist.
This is another excuse to have you here. Okay.
I'm so sorry that it wasn't very good.
I don't see Matteo connected anymore. So I believe we can close. I thank you. I thank Joellen again for this very interesting presentation, and also for the opportunity to raise questions which are very important to enhance our capacity to teach to a broader audience and to engage international students. We need to work on this, and this is a good opportunity to start. So thank you, everybody, and thank you all the colleagues who participated.
Bye-bye to everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, and see you soon.
Bye-bye to everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, thank you. Bye-bye.